Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Golf and Greenkeeper podcast. I'm Steve Smith, your host, and we are ready and set to roll for another segment of Keeper of the Greens. Colin Campbell Chemicals, Keeper of the Greens, thank you very much, and I hope you're looking forward to it. And it's a recent tale of two extremes as we go from the heat to the cold. This is episode number 59. I'm extremely proud to bring to you Keeper of the Greens once again, which is brought to you by Colin Campbell Chemicals. Colin Campbell Chemicals is a 100% Australian owned and operated company that is a leading supplier of crop protection products for the needs of the turf and broader horticultural industries right across Australia. Not only are Colin Campbell Chemicals Australian owned and operated, in 2020 they celebrated 80 years of being in business since their inception by Colin Campbell Sr. back in 1940 in Alexandria, Sydney. Colin Campbell Chemicals has always had a focus on developing new technologies and bringing solutions to the turf industry. Their product range is a testament to their continued focus into their 82nd year of business as a wholly Australian owned and operated company, with some of those products being produced right here in Australia. If you want to know more about how Colin Campbell Chemicals can help protect your turf, then you need to go to their website at campbellchemicals.com.au or talk to Nadeem directly, whose details are on the website under the Contact Us page. And don't forget to tell them that the Golf and Greenkeeper sent you. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you're as excited as I am. Welcome on the line. I'm just going to get straight into it. We go straight down to the Apple Isle, down into the cold parts of the country at this time of the year. I've got on the line Superintendent Shaun Bowden from Royal Hobart Golf Club. G'day, mate. How you doing?
Yeah, good, Steve. How are you, mate?
I'm very well, mate. Thank you for agreeing to come on the podcast. I'm excited. We were in WA a couple of weeks ago, and now I'm in Tasmania over the phone. This is fantastic. Fantastic, mate. How have you been? You've been well?
Yeah, as well as can be. So just thanks for the opportunity to come on and sort of tell my story.
Mate.
I listen all the time, and I enjoy actually hearing about other guys all around the country and seeing what they're up to and the challenges they're facing. So, yeah, really enjoy it.
No, mate, the pleasure and the thanks is certainly from my end, because I appreciate all you superintendents and guys out there giving the audience, giving me. I love to learn about this sort of stuff. I love to hear about it, certainly about your careers as well as the golf courses. As you know, everyone knows that I'm a golf course nut, so I'm just a big fan of hearing and learning. So I appreciate you guys taking the time out as always, mate. And this is another Royal golf course that I'm certainly excited to hear about and dive into, mate. So are you ready to go?
Ready to go, mate.
And I always start, have you ever been on a podcast before?
No, never.
First, did you? I've never asked this one. Did you ever think you'd ever be on a podcast? Literally, I'm just a rookie. You know, I'm just a rookie dude, just out there punching these out. Nothing special. But did you ever see yourself being on a podcast?
No.
So if there's a slip of the tongue, mate, it's all good. There's only a couple of people listening, so
Yeah.
no stress. Now, mate, I start off with Steve's Super 7 questions. Let's go. You ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Number 1, sunrise or sunset?
Sunset.
Sunset. I've got to ask. I always ask. Whenever anyone says sunset, I want to know why. Is it somewhere you've been? Is it where you are now? Why sunset?
Some places that I've been, but I think, I don't know, usually if it's a sunset end of the day, like especially in summer, doing a long day, I don't know, just tend to enjoy it more than the sunrise. I guess you're always really busy early in the morning. You sort of look up and take notice, but afternoons, I think I enjoy them more.
Nice. I like that answer. Very good to hear. Okay, number 2, dogs or no dogs allowed on the golf course?
I would say dogs. I'm not allowed to have a dog down here just because we've got a Tasmanian native hen that run around everywhere. So
yep.
I would say dogs, yes.
Okay, nice. Number 3, stripes or no stripes on fairways?
Stripes.
It's always controversial, that one. I never thought it would be. Hey, everyone I talk to, everyone's got an opinion, and it's very strong. So stripes for you.
Yeah, stripes. Yeah,
Okay,
absolutely.
number 4, after a golf shot, do you prefer people to replace their divot or put sand down?
Or just rather than put sand down, because
Okay.
half the time they never put the divot in properly, and it usually dries out anyway.
Dries out, they put it upside down, they make them, they just, yeah, I know what you mean. I'm hearing you. Number 5, your favourite grass variety?
Um, Probably cooch, I would say. Wintergreen. I like wintergreen, Santa Ana. They're probably the favourites.
Okay, very good, very interesting. Number 6, favourite bunkers. Now, this is multiple choice. Kingston Heath, the beautiful natural Kingston Heath, the earthy tones of Royal Adelaide, or the bright white in your face from the Australian?
I would go Royal Adelaide.
Love it. So good. So good to hear. Number 7, mate, the final one. If you could visit one golf course anywhere on the planet tomorrow, which one would it be?
That's a tough one. Cypress Point, probably.
Oh, that's a good one. You know, it's interesting, and I'm just throwing this out, and you're on the receiving end of this one, so I appreciate any feedback you've got here. I've noticed that through that final question, it's nearly always an American golf course. And you mentioned that you've listened to a few. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of people, obviously, Augusta National, but it's a throw up. I like Tara Edie over in New Zealand. I like a
Ooh.
lot of the New Zealand courses, and it's one of them. Cypress Point
Yes.
or Tara Edie. I think for me at the moment, and I'll probably go Cypress Point.
Nice. Good call, mate. Well, thank you for that, Steve Super 7. Good, short, quick answers and good ones to compare as we've already been doing. Mate, it's very good to hear. So thank you for doing that. Now, let's look at your story. Let's look at your greenkeeping career because you're a new superintendent. For how long have you been super? This is a little bit in reverse. How long have you been super at Royal Hobart now, mate?
About 15 months.
15 months. So that's that's not a very long time, I would have thought, for certainly super on a larger golf course. It's good to see that you're at Royal Hobart. Fantastic experience, no doubt, there taking the reins on there. So let's go back to the beginning. Let's go back to the beginning for you, Shaun, and let's hear about how you got into greenkeeping. Are you a golfer? Did you get in from golf, or how else did you get into greenkeeping?
It was just out of luck, I guess. I've always been a soccer player, so golf I would play here and there, but I wasn't really someone to go out of my way to go play golf. So I was playing over in Europe for a little bit with soccer, and then a few injuries, came back home and had to get a groin reconstruction.
Oh,
and
that doesn't sound pleasant.
It fun. It wasn't fun, but I had to quit my job just before the operation. They said to me on my road to recovery, you can only work 4 hours a day. You can't do any heavy lifting. So I sort of was like, I don't know. I really don't know what I'm going to do. And
that's a hard lot of outlook. That limits a lot of things, doesn't it? How old were you? Can I ask how old you were then?
Oh, I don't even know. Probably 22, 23, something like that.
Right.
So, yeah, it was. So for 3 months, they said that's what you need to do. You can't work too much. And looking for jobs through the paper one day, just Eleanor Country Club was after a summer morning casual for 4 hours in the morning and raking bunkers, mowing greens and mowing tees. And I was like, well, sounds pretty easy and something I could do. So went in for an interview and got to speak to Dan Cook and, got a job. And that's just how it started. Like,
wow.
Out of nowhere and just stumbled into it.
Nothing like starting at the top, mate. Straight into Eleonora, stone cold.
Yeah, well, I had no idea how good Eleanor Country Club was. Like, I'm not going to lie. Like, I actually thought Eleanor Country Club was Monash Country Club.
Okay, nothing. Well, they are neighbours and very close neighbours.
So I was just very lucky. Someone said to me, maybe just look it up on Google Maps and that, and just make sure you've got the right golf club. And
I'm here for the job. Knock, knock at Monash.
Yeah, just very, very fortunate that I actually looked it up and I was like, oh no, actually, it's a course next door to it, and just very, very, very lucky that I got the opportunity to work there. So it was a great place to start my career, put it that way.
Absolutely so. Now, mate, I want to fill in a couple of blanks and bits and pieces there. Maybe you can expand on a few things. Now, when you were talking about soccer and playing in Europe, were you a paid player? Were you at that level? Is that what we're talking?
Yeah, not as high as I would have ever liked to get. But, yeah, I was getting paid over there, and I went over there at, I think it was 17, 18, and
wow,
had a couple of years over there, and, yeah, really enjoyed it. And, just sometimes you just keep getting injuries at the worst time. I never really got injured when I was a young guy, but, I sort of got to that age and I just kept getting injury after injury, and it was something that forced me home, and
yep.
Yeah, sort of that's how it worked out, really.
Yeah, right. And I've heard something similar talking to Superintendent Simon Snedden when he was from Gold Creek, when he was playing for the Knights in his early younger days, and similar thing, injuries, and had to change tact of what he was going to do in life, and at that sort of early 20s age, I think it was, and same as you. So that's a really I suppose, I won't say frightening, but a very sort of straight up, this is your life now. You're not going to be doing football anymore. Straight up and go and find a job. I mean, all of your horizons then would have been very different. Not knowing, was it tough to consider through that period of recovery after the operation and so on? And I imagine that would have been a pretty soul searching time, was it?
Yeah, when I first got back from Germany and I had to have some knee surgery and stuff like that, I think that was probably harder times, sort of knowing that I wasn't over in Europe anymore, and it was sort of like, playing back in Australia, and it just wasn't something that I wanted to do. And I think in a way I sort of, that was tough, I guess. But a few years later, when I had to get the groin reconstruction, it was at that point where I was like, you know what, it's pretty much, I've really got to look for something else to do, because I can't keep going through this. And you're recovering from surgeries a lot. You just get over it, and you're like, I don't really want to come back from another injury again. Like,
hard.
I want to do something totally different. And
for sure,
yeah, it was just fortunate that I landed where I did, and I loved it, working outdoors, and it was just a great place to start my career. As I said, just the guys that were also there, who worked there at the time and through the years that I worked there, like Dan was an amazing boss and really smart guy and a really good mentor, and someone that you really look up to. You just sort of always seem to have the answer to every question, and is always really well prepared. So, but at the same time, like Leon Hennessy was there, Jack Gibbs, Mark Ward, Nathan Van Roosmalen, John Flaherty, Mark Spraggs, and then there was young guys pushing me as well, like Luke Dizerins and Leon Blacklar, who are all, either supers or 2ICs really in the industry now. And it was an amazing experience really for me to be working in that group and learn from them, and also sort of get pushed by them to be better and better.
Absolutely, mate. And you got to have that. You got to have that group of people, and led by someone. Dan Cook's very, very well experienced in, and certainly one of the stalwarts, I suppose, superintendent in Sydney. A lot of people know him. I think he's now over at the Australian, taking the reins after Phil Beale moved away from the Aussie. So Dan's over there now, doing what he does best and continues to do so, and did it for a long time at Eleanor, as you know, absolutely. So, mate, can I say, you're a Sydney boy? Is that your background?
No, not at all. I was born in West Wyalong.
Country boy.
Yeah. So the story is, like, my father, he used to work in National Australia Bank, and we used to get moved around pretty much every couple of years. We'd go to a new bank where my dad would pretty much just fix it, and then we'd move on. So
right,
yeah, lived sort of West Wyalong, Leeton, Goulburn, Barrel, Nowra, and then eventually, that was by 10 years old, and then eventually Dad decided to get out of it, and we moved to Maxwell, and he actually bought a lawn mowing business, which was quite funny because I used to help him a lot, but I never thought I'd ever jump into a career where I was looking after grass and stuff like that.
Back then, as a kid, you could probably view greenkeeping as just a professional lawnmower. Really, that's sometimes people look at it that way.
Yeah, exactly right. And that's, even when I got into working at Eleanor and started going to TAFE, I sort of was probably a bit naive and sort of was like, oh, like this is easy, you just water it, you fertilise it, you cut it. Like there's really not much else to it. But you soon realise that's easy stuff, and there's so much more that goes into it.
Once you dive in, there's a whole lot going on there. There's a lot more involved, and that's the beauty of it, and that's what we all love about it, about doing it. So, mate, you did the time. Did you? So you started off that casual side of life, doing that work at Eleanor. Was it long before you took on? Is that where you did an apprenticeship, for example?
Yeah. So I did my 3 months as summer morning casual guy, and then Dan came up to me and said, hey, we've got a full-time just workman, labourer that's, if you want to take that job. And I took that on, and then I think it was a couple months later, Dan came up to me and said, hey, like, if you ever want to do like an adult apprenticeship or anything like that, like, we can work something out and you can do that. And went home and had a think about it, and then sort of went, well, I really enjoy what I'm doing, and I love learning, about the grass and about golf and everything like that. So I decided, I'll go do my apprenticeship and end up doing Cert 4 and diploma after I finished Cert 3. So I sort of did everything at Eleanor, and I was lucky enough to sort of get on the management team in my third year of my apprenticeship. I ended up getting to foreman. So
wow, well done.
So it was just, as I said, like with that bunch of guys that was, I got to work under through there. Like everyone pushed everyone, and I sort of looked at it and went, oh well, I'm not going to sort of go into this industry sort of just half-assed in a way. I sort of, if I'm going to go at something, I'm going to go 100%, and that's what I sort of did.
Absolutely, and if anyone's not sure listening, Eleanor is probably one of the premier clubs held in very high esteem in Sydney. It was originally a breakaway of Royal Sydney up to the northern beaches of Sydney, the north side there, and it is one of, I mean, if you go there and see it, I've been fortunate to see it a couple of times and played it once, and it is literally, it's almost like walking into an Augusta in a sense. The level of presentation is as high a quality as anything you've seen on television. It's one of these places that's just tucked away. You wouldn't know it. Plenty of people drive past it, don't even know it's there, and it's got an extremely long history as well. And like I said, one of the very high, held in very, very high regard and high esteem. And that team that you mentioned, you're working as part of, Shaun, under Dan Cook, and a lot of those other names, and a handful of those guys are superintendents around Sydney and New South Wales already. It's quite an incredible one, and you yourself are now down at Royal Hobart. So, mate, testament to Dan, to the team, to that time, and to yourself, most importantly, in deciding that, like you said, you weren't going to go half-assed. You were going to have a crack at it, and you got a great mentor at the time with Dan Cook. So, and that other team of support and everyone trying to push to do better and strive to do better, and that's why Eleanor is one of those places that's held in such high regard. So, mate, what a great time to be involved at Eleanor, and what a great part of your career. How long were you at Eleanor ultimately? And you went into foreman, as you said, in the latter part of your apprenticeship. How many years did you end up doing at Eleanor?
Oh, it was about, I think it was around 8.5.
Okay, so, right.
Yeah, I started late 2010 and left sort of early 2019. So, yeah,
wow.
about
okay.
eight and a bit years.
So what did you get to? Did you get to foreman, and by 2019, what did you end up getting to before you decided to move elsewhere, and where did you go?
Just foreman. So I sort of realised, finishing off diploma, that a lot of the guys had been in their positions for quite some time, and I sort of just felt like maybe I need to move away and find something new. And there was a period when I did leave that I enjoyed my time at Eleanor a heap, but I got to a point where I think I was just really, really burnt out, and I just thought maybe I want to go do something totally different, away from greenkeeping. But I stayed within greenkeeping, and I ended up moving up to the Gold Coast. So
okay.
but I took a step away from the management side of things for a brief period. So
Can I
yeah,
ask you? And sorry to jump in, but maybe you can, maybe you can't. I'm a little bit interested, I suppose, when you say you felt a little burnt out and probably a little bit tired, and in a sense of being there for that long. What was that? When you say that, what kind of things do you mean? Because I know what it's like to be intense for a number of years, working at a high level. You just put your heart and soul into it. And when I say high level, it's the highest level that you perform yourself at. And I don't know if that's what you were kind of talking about. Is there anything you can allude to there within yourself, how you felt when you sort of did that?
Yeah, I just think the last 6 months I was at Eleanor, I sort of really started to not enjoy going to work. And I think since I started there, I always loved my job, and I loved turning up in the morning and seeing what the day was going to bring. And it sort of just got to a point where I didn't want to be there, and I just really, I just wasn't happy. And but, like there was a lot of years there where we were, winter was busier than summer. So there was years where we rebuilt all the bunkers at Eleanor. You're always doing drainage works in winter too. So I always feel like some years that you sort of felt like you never stopped. And you probably didn't take holidays as much as probably I should have at times, because you wanted to learn as much as possible. And if we're rebuilding bunkers, you wanted to be there to be a part of it and do it and lead a team. And I just think I just got to a point where I was just like, you know what, I want something different. I'm not happy. I'm not enjoying it. So I think that's where I really started looking at potentially leaving the industry, just because I thought I was over it. But I think looking back on it now, it was more the fact that I was just burnt out, and I just really needed a bit of a break and a bit of a scenery change.
Do you think? I'm just I recently did a Walking the Fairway segment, and I mentioned it very, very sadly here in Sydney. We've lost a couple of guys in the last couple of months to mental health, and is that a bit of a? I know I can speak for myself, and I suppose I'm asking to see if it was a similar thing. Is that a self-care? Do you think we do enough self-care and understanding within ourselves if we've gone and pushed ourselves? Do we need a break? Because I know that I had a similar thing where I got angry about work. I got to a point where it's kind of like what you said. You just, I don't know if it's a day you wake up or something, it's built up, and then you just have this realization. I know I did when I was working at Wentworth Falls, and I remember coming home to my parents at the time, and I was assistant, and I said to Mum and Dad, I said, I don't like what I do. I don't like being at work anymore. And I needed a change. And in the end, there was an opportunity, and I took that opportunity to become a superintendent at another golf course, and that was the change that I needed. And I think everyone has different thresholds, and everyone's different. They're different makeup. And can I say, is it a bit of self-care there and understanding yourself a little bit? You learn a bit about yourself as well in a workplace?
Yeah, absolutely. I think sometimes, like, you sort of realise that maybe you're pushing yourself way too hard every single day. There was a lot of days where you always wanted to produce the best, because that's what, especially at a high-end place like Eleanor, that's what was expected. And I guess you never wanted to go there and do a bad job or put in a bad performance. So there was a lot of days where maybe you should have sort of pulled the handbrake on a little bit, but you went, harder, worked more, did more and more hours. And I think sometimes, like, when you look back on it, you're like, wow, I really pushed myself probably way too hard at times. To just, put the foot on the gas pedal, the brake, and sort of just went, you know what, like, have a bit more time off, or get away from even just from Sydney, and instead of taking holidays and sort of still hanging around, maybe just really get away and just, forget about everything and just really enjoy your time off, and then come back with a fresh mind. But sometimes I just found I couldn't let some of that stuff go. Like, I was always thinking of work and what was going on. So I think you've definitely got to do it. And there's some of the guys I've come across in the industry. Some guys just don't like taking days off, which is all well and good. But at some point, you need to recharge the batteries and sort of, free the mind of everything that's going on and sort of enjoy your life a bit instead of just always constantly working.
Absolutely, and a weekend isn't a break. It's not a recharge. That's not the type of recharge that you and I are talking about right now. We're talking about almost a bit of a refresh and a reset, as it were.
Yeah, absolutely. You want to take 2-3 weeks off and sort of forget about everything and sort of maybe go somewhere else. And that was what I did at the end of just before I left Eleanor. I went on it was about a month's holiday to the US and travelled around.
Nice.
Yeah, I went and watched a heap of sport and just had a look around and just totally forgot about work.
Very good, mate. Very good. So then you had that break. You come back and you mentioned there you went to the Gold Coast. What was at the Gold Coast?
So I was just very fortunate. I'd been looking for a job up there for a while and just couldn't get one. And I was just lucky enough. Rod Cook at the Grand Golf Club got in contact with me and said, "Hey, we've got an opening just for a greenkeeper if you're interested." And so, yeah, I took it and moved up there and only lasted there a couple of months because I think I found out quite quickly that, probably I was burnt out and I wanted to be in the management side of things and not just a greenkeeper.
Yep.
And also going from Eleanor to the Grand is pretty much going from, a penthouse to a penthouse. And
I didn't jump in before, but when you said you went to the Grand, I'm sitting there thinking to myself, you've only gone from one of the best in Sydney to another one of the best in the country.
Yeah. I sort of looked at it and I was like, got a few months in and I saw like, you know what, hopefully another opportunity will come up somewhere else. And one did, and I went. Glenn Gibson-Smith at the Glades Golf Club at Robina, he got in touch and said, "Hey, look, we've got a 3IC job going here. We've just had a guy leave, and would you be interested?" So I ended up going over and having a drive around with Glenn and sort of having a chat to him and sort of realised that it wasn't, even though it's a great course, the Glades, it wasn't as well financed as what the Grand Golf Club was, and it was pretty much a chance to learn something totally different and work at a club that probably didn't have as, that big financial budget that the other two courses had that I'd worked at. So I thought, you know what, this is a good opportunity for me. And even though it was, going back to looking after bent grass in the Gold Coast, it was like, I've done this in Sydney, I can do it up here. So I jumped at the opportunity, and I was very, very fortunate again to get the opportunity to work for Glenn and learnt a lot off him. And it was just good to learn something totally different, though, like working at a club that didn't have that massive budget.
There's a learning curve, no doubt.
Yeah.
I love the Glades. Know Glenn quite well. Great bloke. Shout out to Glenn at the Glades up there on the Goldie. And that's probably for me. You put the Grand aside because it's just so good. But of all the rest of the golf courses there, the Glades is my favourite because it has bent grass greens. I absolutely love playing on those surfaces up there. It gets me to feel like home being here in Sydney, and nice true surfaces. But like you said, not as big a budget, and there's a challenge, a very big challenge in my opinion, in maintaining bent grass up there on the Gold Coast. So how did that go?
No, that was good. It was good. It was another good learning curve, and I really enjoyed it. There were some long days there, but you still get that in Sydney as well. So I think you end up getting that wherever you work. But no, it was really beneficial, and a great bunch of guys there as well, and learned a lot from them, and took a lot off that experience. And it was just, like they just, as I said, they didn't have all the money in the world to sort of just throw at certain problems. So it taught me something totally different that I'd never had to really deal with in the past. So
that's good key learning points, though. You probably, instead of just saying we need this, and we can get it tomorrow or next week or next month, it's like, well, hang on, we've got to stop and think about this puzzle, how we're going to rearrange the pieces to make it work, because we can't just we can't just say we'll get that, thank you very much, and come along. You got to problem solve in a different way, haven't you?
Yeah, exactly right. And I think from previous clubs that sometimes you you're getting a huge amount of new machinery in every year, and if there was a problem, some golf courses, golf clubs are really, they want to get it fixed and get it fixed as soon as possible. And then, go to a club that sort of it's not run like that. They're sort of like, look, this is your budget and you got to stick to it and that's it. And you're sort of trying to solve the puzzle about how do we fix this and, not spend a huge amount of money. Like, how are we going to get around this problem? So, it was a great experience.
Awesome, good stuff. And so you've experienced Sydney, you've experienced the Gold Coast, and you worked hard in both of those areas. And Gold Coast on two top quality courses. What happened after? Where did you go after the Glades?
I ended up back down in Sydney. So the assistant superintendent job came up at Pennant Hills Golf Club.
Right, another prestigious club in Sydney, mate. You're landing in some great opportunities, and you're scoring the gig. So that's again a testament to you.
Yeah. So it came up. I'd gone for a couple other jobs previous to that. One in Hong Kong, and I was trying to look at some jobs in Vietnam as well to sort of maybe be a grow-in super, but nothing sort of happened there. So it was just. Again, the job came up, and I'd been out to Pennant Hills once before, and actually for a tape class when I was doing diploma, and Richard Kirkby, who the superintendent, had a talk to us and stuff like that, and to the class, and I always said, oh, it wouldn't be too bad to work out here, and eventually the job came up there, and then next I was back down in Sydney, Yeah.
I'm just thinking about the people that you've worked under. You worked under Dan Cook, like I said, a very, very well experienced operator and superintendent, been there at Eleanor for a long time. And then you go around and you come back to Pennant Hills, and Richard Kirkby, who'd been there, he was there when I went for, what was I going for? When I finished my TAFE, it was for Apprentice of the Year. In New South Wales, and we got a tour. It was of the golf course there, and Richard was kind enough to show me around. I got there a little bit early, and Richard's been there, or had been there, because he recently retired, I should say, and he'd been there for an extremely long time. Another well-experienced stalwart of Sydney greenkeeping is Richard at Pennant Hills. So you were under Richard as well.
Yes, that's correct. So,
and of course, Pennant Hills, in terms of, and I'm going to ask you, what was it like? And some people may not realise this and may not know, anyone listening from the golf side of things as opposed to greenkeeping, Pennant Hills was the first, if I get this right, and you might need to correct me, but I'm pretty sure it's correct, was the first golf course and golf club in Australia to have its very own on-site private water treatment plant for to treat sewerage water for golf course use. Is that correct?
As far as I know, yes.
Yeah, well, we were looking into it at Katoomba, and we, the model was, look at Pennant Hills, and we got down there, go and have a look, and quite remarkable. So they had their own water treatment plant, water treatment facility on site on a golf course, which is pretty special. And you've come in as an assistant under one of the best superintendents that we've got here. We've had here in Sydney, and another premier golf club. Man, that's another great place to go and experience and learn again.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was, again, totally different grasses. Previously to that, I've been working on, couch fairways and pretty much, pure bent greens, and get to Pennant Hills and Kikuyu fairways. With couch tees and I would say probably nearly 50-50 polar bents. So
yep. Great surfaces too.
Yeah, great surfaces, and but something totally different. And so it was just very fortunate to get that job, and I was there for 2 years and learned a lot off Richard while I was there, but also the staff that he had there again was a very solid team. And I moved up to course manager after a year, so Richard ended up reducing one of the days he was working per week, so I sort of made him director of grounds in golf, and I moved up to course manager.
Okay, wow. So you got the reins.
Yeah, just got a bit more experience, a few more days where I was in charge by myself at the golf club, and, Richard wasn't there, so it sort of probably set me up quite well for where I am now, and just helped me sort of build my confidence and my man management skills, and sort of delegating jobs and stuff like that. So it was a great experience.
Absolutely so, and I suppose a slightly different to a certain extent. It's a parkland style golf course, like you mentioned, 50-50 power bent greens more or less, and so that's an interesting challenge as well. Dealing with a bit of power there in Sydney, they sort of live on a bit of a knife edge during humid times. Although would have been in the drier times through what year was that? 2018 or thereabouts, was it something like that?
No, that was I was there 2019, 2020.
Yeah, right. Okay.
So for them 2 years I was there. Yeah, it was. We had some pretty. It was more hotter than, not compared to how much rain they've had this year.
Yep.
It was a lot hotter. We had a couple of days. I think the hottest day we had was 47.7.
Wow.
So that was an interesting day. But yeah, as I said, learned a lot. It was great fun.
Awesome. So you've got a taste of the range at Pennant Hills, and it was it after Pennant Hills that we make the leap to the cold Apple Isle of Tasmania?
Yeah, that's correct. That's correct.
How did that go? What was the opportunity? I take it the opportunity to be superintendent was available. Everyone throws their hat in the ring, and you've come up trumps and explain to us how that went about from Pennant Hills.
Well, it was a bit different. They definitely advertised the job, but I received a phone call, and I think there was a few guys that received a phone call, before the job went up, and they sort of said, like, they're wanting to go with someone potentially from outside Tasmania. Would you be interested in, I guess, putting your name forward? Because I think if I just read it on the internet, maybe I mightn't have gone for the job.
Yep.
I might have just sort of more been thinking, oh, you know what, I'll stay in Sydney and that'll be that. But yeah, I got a phone call off a good friend, and he sort of said, look, these guys are going to be advertising soon. Would you be interested in putting your name forward? And I sort of had to think about it and decided, yeah, may as well. And didn't know too much about Royal Hobart at all. I'd only ever been to Tasmania once when I was like 16. And it was literally for like a couple of days for athletics and then pretty much home. So I didn't really see much of anything. So, so got the call about it, interviewed, and then they sort of said to me and my partner, Hannah, well, you may as well come down and actually have a look at Tasmania and Hobart and actually sort of work out if this is somewhere that you might want to live, because it's definitely not Sydney.
It's different.
So,
it's different.
So they brought us down, and they didn't try to sell us on the job at all. It was pretty much like, have a cruise around, have a look at the city and work out if this was somewhere that you might want to move to. And so we did that, came out, had a look at the golf course and looked at the facilities and stuff like that, and sort of went, you know what, I actually could do this. And Hannah turned around and said, you know what, I could live down here as well. So, I still had other interviews to do, but it was, for us, it sort of was like, okay, we can do this. And then eventually interviewed a couple more times and got the green light. So,
wow. Was that a big wow moment?
I think I always thought like, I'd end up just putting in for a job and interviewing, and you get it, and then it's like, where they brought us down and showed us around and actually made sure that we would be happy to move down here. So it was definitely a wow moment. And sort of when I was finding out that I was going to get the job, like my first, my son was about to be born, so it was sort of a lot of stuff going on all at once, and that's what we were trying to figure out at the same time too. Like, all right, so potentially when can we move down? How old's our son going to be? Like, how are we going to do this?
Yep.
So, it was a bit nerve-wracking more just trying to work out how we were moving down to Hobart than sort of realising, like, hey, you've got the supers job, you're in charge now.
There's a lot of other things going on in your life outside greenkeeping. About to be, were you guys first-time parents? Is that the firstborn?
Yeah. So we didn't know what we're walking into. So
move from the warmer parts of the country, you're going straight down to the coldest parts, and you're also going to be first time parents very, very soon. There's a lot of balls up in the air at the moment, wondering where they're going to land.
Yeah, exactly right. And we left in April, so we moved down here in April, and just before we left Sydney, it had rained. I've known maybe like 250 mil, and then we got down to Hobart and it was freezing cold. It was very much welcome to Hobart sort of moment. And yeah, me and my missus were like, we did not pack well for moving down to Hobart. We didn't think it was going to be that cold that quickly. So
it's it's not out of the frying pan into the oven, it's out of the frying pan into the freezer.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, it was fun.
Wow, that's and in late autumn, no less, or mid autumn, more or less. I mean, you haven't gone there in spring for it to warm up and then slowly transition, to their summers, which is like a max of 25, I think, there or thereabouts, and then go into winter. You've gone from Sydney, summer and autumn, and then just bang straight in the fridge.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a big shock.
I bet it was. So you that's quite a mate. You've travelled around. There's quite a lot in that time that you've experienced in your greenkeeping career, all the way to becoming superintendent at Royal Hobart. I mean, that's huge. I just you're at a golf club with a Royal moniker on it. It's an established golf club. It's got great history. You've gone into the freezing part of the country. You got to learn a few different things about how to exist in those sorts of times. So, what year was that? Was that 2021? Was that last year? Year before?
Yeah. 2021.
2021. So that's a sort of loosely COVID time as well. Just throw that in the mix.
Yeah, and that was one thing that we were worried about as well, was like if we got stuck in Sydney and stuff like that. So we were just very fortunate. It was just a really good time that there was nothing really happening in Sydney, and the borders were open to get into Tasmania, so it worked out perfectly.
And you didn't have the dramas that Superintendent Matthew Soles from Royal Perth had trying to get over to his job that we heard when I interviewed him. I mean, like you said, Sydney was, you could have called COVID, you could have done anything here. Just everyone else locks you out, but we can be fine. Everyone in Sydney could do what they liked. It was a very, very interesting time in Australia. So,
yeah,
mate, wow, congratulations, father for the first time. You get the gig as a superintendent at Royal Hobart for the first. I mean, there's a lot of goal kicking in a very short period of time as well.
Yeah, I think a few people said to me, like, "Are you sure you want to take all this on at once?" Like, there's a lot, and I was like, "Well, these opportunities don't come up, all the time. So it's something that you just got to go for." And I knew there was a possibility that at some point Richard potentially would leave Pennant Hills, but it was something that, you're weighing it up and you're sort of like, oh, well, he might go, he might not go. What should I do? It was too good of an opportunity to just say, oh, you know what, I'll just wait. So yeah, for me, I was sort of like, no, I've been working really hard to get this opportunity, and I'm going to take it. And especially after seeing a few of my other mates in Sydney sort of go for other supers jobs, and they sort of didn't get them because, there's times where they want a younger guy to step up and take on the supers gig, and then there's times where, clubs want to experience super. And I think there was a few jobs going around at the time that they wanted an experienced super, and it was like, well, yeah, what do I do? Do I take this opportunity, or do I just wait? And I thought, no, I'm going to jump at it.
You got to take it where the opportunities arise. And if you sit and wait, you could be waiting forever in a sense. And like what you said, you got those couple of things. Being a father for the first time, being parents for the first time, super at Royal Hobart. Lots of things going on all at once. I think it reminds me of the late great Peter Brock. I think one of his sayings. I think it was Peter Brock that said, "Bite off more than you can chew, and chew like hell."
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
one of those sorts of moments, and lots of good things all at once, mate. That's a really good story to get to where you are, and from that young age of, I suppose, having to change your what you thought your life was going to be like, and the path you were going to go down, and now you're in greenkeeping at Royal Hobart. Mate, fascinating stuff, and what a great story. Thanks for sharing that. Now, I'm curious a little bit about where you are, a little bit about Tasmania, a little bit about Royal Hobart, and look, I suppose I can add a few bits and pieces in. I've done my little bit of research and some of the things that I know about Royal Hobart. Royal Hobart's it's over 100 years old. It was established in 1916. It received the Royal Charter in 1925, for example, and it was designed by Vern Morecambe. And Vern's, one of those guys, the son of the famous Mick Morecambe from Royal Melbourne, and Vern designed Spring Valley, Kerr Lewis, the original Lonsdale before the recent OCM design. Lee and Gather is also a Victorian one, and in Adelaide did some work at Glenelg and also the East Course at the Grange, from what I gather. So he's a well-established designer. So Royal Hobart's got a great history in design. It's got a great long history in Tasmania, certainly in Australian golf as well. It's hosted plenty of tournaments in its time too, which is what I noticed when I was looking into a bit of Royal Hobart's history. The Tasmanian Open, the Oz Amateur. It's also done the Men's Australian Open back in 1971. The only time it's held the Men's Australian Open, but it has held it, which I thought was pretty impressive. And
it is.
I mean, so you're looking after a golf course that's been the host of the Men's Australian Open, and it was won in 1971 by Jack Nicklaus, the Golden Bear.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty good. So you've had the likes of some pretty awesome people walking the fairways down there at Royal Hobart, and Nicklaus, he won with 19 under, won by 8 shots, by the way. I mean, he played his backside off to smoke that one in. Mate, it's got some great history. There's a whole lot going on there. I suppose I'm talking, talking up what it's. I love to discover the elements and histories of golf courses and clubs. So there's a great standard, a great lot of history, a whole lot to Royal Hobart. What was it like when you first walked in as superintendent at Royal Hobart? What was going through your mind?
I don't really know, honestly. I wasn't too daunted by it. I think my experience at Pennant Hills, especially being the course manager, had given me a lot of, I guess, taught me a lot, and I got to sort of manage a team and run the team and do all that sort of thing day to day. So it wasn't something that was bothering me too much. I think the first day that I walked in, it was really trying to find out and work out what had been done in the past and how everything was being currently done and what I needed to change. And that was probably my biggest thoughts when I first went in there, was trying to wrap my head around how things been done, like what has been done, and what can I change and what can I improve pretty much straight away to, get a bit of a wow that, new superintendent's in here. He's sort of trying to make sure he's on top of things. So that was probably the main thing that I was more worried about, first day.
Yep. Is it what sort of a team do you have there, mate? Have you got a reasonable sized team at a Royal Golf Club? I don't know. What do you have?
I would think we're probably must have the smallest staff out of any Royal. So including myself, we've only got 7.
Whoa. Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's not what I was expecting you to say.
No, a lot of people, I think, are quite shocked when I sort of say, hey, it's just, there's 7 of us. And
wow, So
the amount of work we get through is crazy.
That I don't even need you to explain it. As soon as you say you got 7 and you're at a golf club that, like I said, has hosted the Men's Australian Open, I know it was the best part of 50 years ago, but that's irrelevant. It's still, I suppose there's that stature involved at a club, and I've got no doubt that the members see the club in that regard. They would expect it to be delivered and presented and maintained in that regard as well, in something of a golf club that's hosted an Oz Open. I'm sure I could be wrong, but I assume there's a level of expectation at a place like Royal Hobart. If I went there, never been there, I've got an idea in my head what I might be expecting to see. So you've got 7 staff. Is it a big golf course? What's the lay of the land like? What's the site location like?
The site location's around 80, 90 hectares.
Okay.
So the course probably takes up about 65 hectares all up of actual, cutting surfaces, roughs, fairways, tees,
Yep.
everything like that. We do have a big sort of pine forest at the back of the course that there's land there that we don't use for the golf course and we don't need to maintain. But
Right.
yeah, a big area with 2 driving ranges, so practice facilities. So yeah, the 7 guys, it's a lot of work and it's a lot to keep on top of. So yeah, there's some days where you're stretched thin and you're trying to get stuff done, but everyone sort of works their butts off just to get everything that they can get done on a day. It's some days are huge, but
Yep.
you get winter and you sort of catch up on a lot of things because everything sort of really starts to go dormant very quickly down here.
That's it sounds like you've got a really, I suppose, a close-knit team. You've got to get that much work done. Everyone's rowing in the same direction. Everyone's committed as well. They all love doing what they do. There's obviously tough days, and down in a place like Hobart, there's going to be plenty of cold, tough days, no doubt, I imagine as well. You're down there in the roaring 40s, mate. I reckon it's going to be, I thought it was cold where I was in the Blue Mountains when it would get down to -8 in the wind chill. I can't imagine what it gets to down there. It'd be pretty crazy. Mate, tell us a little bit about what the Tasmanian climate is. What sort of differences are you experiencing there that you talked about first day in? You had to try and understand what was being done, how it was being done. What's that climate like to maintain a golf course there relative to what you've experienced? Maybe a little bit about what you had to learn on the job to understand how you're going to maintain the golf course. What's it like?
It's been very, it's been a great learning curve. The first year, sort of getting down here in April, and pretty much everything's already, dormant. You're not really cutting a lot off surfaces, so you're already probably only cutting most surfaces like fairways, tees, like once every fortnight, surrounds once every fortnight.
Wow.
Cutting greens, around 3 times a week, and then just rolling and de-dewing the other days. So that was probably the biggest thing straight away, is trying to work out when you can do certain things like renovation, stuff like that, and still get the recovery from the grass. And that was a big one straight up. So I arrived here mid-April and the boys were doing tee renovations.
Right.
And it was sort of like, what are we, what? And they're just like, yeah, this is when we do tee renovations. I'm like, oh, are we going to even get recovery? Like, how's it going to look? And I think that first year we sort of got lucky. There was still a bit of warmth in the soil, where I think this year we had a pretty big dry period through summer, and quite a good sort of warm autumn. And then we sort of got to May and pretty much everything just, it was like a click of the fingers, like all of a sudden, boom, done. Everything just shut down like really, really quick. So like we looked at soil temps today. So the first thing this morning, they were at pretty much most greens were at 1 degrees. And then,
whoa.
Yeah, middle of the day, they're about 4.5 to 5 degrees.
So there's nothing going on. There's not really a lot of growth happening.
No, not a lot whatsoever. So there's a chance in the next couple of weeks we potentially might only cut fairways once every 3 weeks.
Wow.
You're pretty much doing a cut on fairways pretty much just to tidy them up and make them look a bit cleaner. But apart from that, everything shuts down really quick, and then it's trying to time it coming into the spring as well, like doing your renos and then sort of hoping that hopefully we'll get some warmth here soon so that we get some recovery on the greens. And where we don't have sand sitting on them for 4 or 5 weeks. We had a great spell last year where spring sort of kicked in right as we were doing renovations. So after about a week and a half, we were back to full coverage of grass, and it was perfect. But yeah, it's one of them things that you sort of like, oh wow, I'm stressing over like, is it going to get warm?
So you've really got to, I suppose, I won't say predict, because that's kind of, wishful thinking in a sense, but you've got to understand when that timing is going to work well with the turn of the seasons, more down there, more so than what you've experienced up here in Sydney and in Queensland and the like, haven't you? Like, you really got to get that, because if you get it wrong, I can stick my hand up. I got it wrong at Katoomba once. I'm over here, people. I stuffed it up once, and I was forced into a corner and ended up doing a greens renovations too late because we had championships and things, and I didn't have much of a choice, but I was like, going to do it, and I got it wrong, and it was hard to get the bumpiness out after renos through all of winter. Like, you really got to get it right, haven't you?
Yeah, exactly right. Like, for instance, this year, we're meant to do greens renovations beginning of March, so probably a lot earlier than most, any other golf club I've worked at. So just randomly, we hadn't had rain for months, and it rained on the 2 days that we had scheduled for the greens renovations in March. So looking through the calendar, the only other time I could do it was May, and we just decided not to do it, and we've done some other things to sort of keep the greens going throughout winter and waiting until we punch holes in September. But
yep.
Yeah, it was one thing that you make that choice and you go, you know what, we're not going to get the recovery in May, so I'm not even going to try it.
Good call. Good call.
Yeah.
I could tell you that now because I got it wrong. And I was being crucified for about 3 months.
Yeah, well, it's just one of them things like, oh, well, better off being safe than sorry. And it worked out for me this year. So, but other things that have sort of really jumped out is Fusarium down here is rampant, especially in that crossover from sort of autumn into winter. Like, you really get a lot of Fusarium on all surfaces. So that's been something that's, been totally different for me. Usually, you're worrying about stem weevil and anthracnose pythium, where Fusarium seems like it's the biggest disease down here, especially going into winter.
That's what we had in the mountains. We had mostly POA greens, and there was probably, I would have said, maybe 70-30, 70 POA, 30 bent, if not more POA, on majority of our greens, and we used to get annihilated by Fusarium. It was always our pink snow mold is what they call it in the States, because it often happens when it sits under the snow for so long, those greens. But we don't quite have that issue in Australia in terms of the snow staying on them. But that cold air, the cold temps, if you've got dull days of low cloud and low light levels, low UV, and staying wet, like you talked about the importance of getting the dew off if you're not mowing them and you're not rolling them and that sort of stuff. You got to keep that leaf as dry as possible. That's what we had. We're a cool climate. We're a cold climate in the mountains, and probably not too dissimilar to where you guys are and what you experience down there. So, mate, can you tell us, is that a key to the grass types that you have there, why you do get Fusarium? What have you got across your surfaces?
So the greens are obviously pretty, I would say 50-50 or maybe 60-40 when it comes to the Pencross bent greens with POA. There is a little bit of fescue in a few here and there, just from probably years of renovation and maybe bringing it from the surrounds into the green. But it's not really a problem so far. But yeah, the greens are, the course was built in 1960.
Yep.
So out on this site, so the greens haven't changed since then. So
right.
So they're pushing 60 odd years or more, and they don't drain, I would say, great. There's times where you're really throwing on penetrants and stuff like that to really try and flush the water through the profile. On fairway surrounds and in the rough, it's pretty much a mix of like fescues, rise, bent and POA. Tees are predominantly fescue, rye and bent. The new hole that we've done, so our 7th hole, was something that was constructed before I got here. So they had Richard Chamberlain as the architect and Darby Muller as the shaper.
Yeah, right.
And came down and and changed the seventh hole because there was safety concerns there. So
Okay.
that's predominantly fescue fairway, fescue tee, and they went with pure distinction bent grass greens.
Another club to tick the pure distinction box when it comes to greens.
Yeah.
How have you found that particular putting surface, mate, to maintain? Young, new grass.
Yeah, it's young. I'm not 100% sold on it just yet. That's just me.
You're the one living with it and dealing with it down there. You've got your opinion on what you think compared to what else you got to play with, because you've got to deliver consistency.
Yeah, well, that's it. And like we've got really, really good root structure in the pure distinction greens. The roots down past like 200 mil, so
Wow.
they're absolutely thriving. But the sands down here, especially in Tassie, a lot of them really high pH.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so got our sand from pretty much up at Barnbougle.
Okay.
So it's mined from up around that area and it's brought down. So the pH on the greens around 9.
Whoa, that's high.
Yeah, it's super high. So there's some difficulty there trying to keep up, obviously, nutrition to the leaf, really. So
it's not going to be as available as most normal courses and normal soil profiles. You normally, around under 7, under 6, that sort of stuff is sort of, so it's readily available to be taken up by the plants.
Yeah. So that's the thing I found the most was just sometimes, definitely you've got to put more and more nitrogen on it, but at the same time you're sort of increasing that thatch layer more and more at the same time as well. So it's sort of like catch-22 in a way. Like you're sort of just like, I don't want to really put heaps on, but I need to really get a spark out of the turf, especially the leaf.
Yep.
That's been an interesting sort of start for me looking after pure distinction. I had one green at Pennant Hills Golf Club that we put down with pure distinction, and obviously totally different there. The soil pH is sitting at 7, so you didn't have to really go out heavy with the nitrogen and potassium fertilizers, where this time around obviously high pH. So it's been very interesting trying to make it work and really get the best out of it so far. I don't think we're there yet, but they still putt really, really well. But moving forward, I'll probably start doing some trials on some other bent grasses just to make sure that we've got the right bent grass moving forward for any
site.
Future works. Yeah,
very much so. Very much, mate. That's all very, very interesting. And to deliver, like I said before, you got to deliver a consistent surface across your putting greens for players to experience and members. No doubt, it's. I don't think it's a course that's public access. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's not. So to your members, it's all about the member experience and what they expect. And you've got to deliver consistency throughout. So, like you said, doing your homework on your grasses for future works to understand what's going to best suit the site and best suit the course is there's time involved in that and evaluation in that too. So there's a bit of work in that background there as well, mate, that you've got ahead of you. Let's move away a little bit from the agronomy side and talk a little bit about the golf course. I want to hear, you've been there for 15 months, as you said before. Do you have a favourite location for those people who are fortunate to get a start at Royal Hobart? What's somewhere that just really epitomises, or it's just a beautiful part of the golf course? It'd be a tee or a green side or something. Where's one of your favourite parts of the golf course?
Oh, I like the new 7th hole that was constructed, just due to the fact that they did a lot of thinning out of trees in that area.
Okay.
So we've got a vegetation master plan that we're undertaking at the moment to get rid of a lot of non-native species, introduced species that were introduced, like blackwoods and some pine trees and stuff like that were introduced sort of more around the 90s.
Okay.
Sort of have just been planted here, there, wherever, and sort of taken over a lot of areas. Like when you look at the golf course back in the 1960s, there wasn't a huge amount of trees on the golf course, where you look at it now and obviously every hole is got trees down either side that are sort of, some are encroaching into the roughs and the fairway, especially with roots. So that 7th hole is something that they cleaned out a lot of the non-natives and got rid of a lot of trees there. And it's sort of, you look up there and you sort of, I guess for me, I'm looking at it like, well, I'm hoping this is what the course will look like more, in 3 or 4 years' time when we get rid of a lot of these non-natives, and it's just really nice there.
That's fantastic, mate. Good to see. And trees are vegetation management. I've been banging on about it before for a lot of golf clubs, and it seems that I think a lot of the higher profile clubs, more well-established clubs, well-off clubs, are the ones that understand. It seems to be that seem to understand more that vegetation needs to be managed and maintained. Whether it's because other golf clubs, public access golf courses and the like, may not be able to afford to do work, or think that they don't need to try and do work. Vegetation totally changes the complexity of a golf course and the way it's perceived and the way it's played and also maintained, isn't it? I mean, it has a great impact on maintenance, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially like some areas that you go around to at Royal, there's a lot of thick trees and shrubs sort of around certain parts of the course, and you want to try and get as much light and air movement in holes as possible. And in some areas we know that will thin out and we'll achieve that straight away, but also, you plant trees too close to fairways to try and shape holes, and then you're looking at 20 years down the track, you're sort of like, well, got all these root encroaching onto the fairways, and they're sort of in the roughs as well, so people trying to take a shot out of the rough are trying to work out like, oh, is there a tree root under my ball?
Yeah.
So, yeah, stuff that I guess sometimes, there's, great intentions when they all get planted and, people have got a vision for the course, but sometimes I guess you end up doing more damage than good by just going out and just planting just any old tree wherever you want. Like, you really got to look at, all right, where's this going to be in 20 years? Is it going to be, over 20 metres high and the roots are going to be in the middle of the fairway, or are they going to be 10 metres high and the roots are only going to go out 4 or 5 metres compared to out to 20 metres? So
exactly,
yeah, it's something that gets overlooked, but it is what it is, and you learn from it and you move forward. And I think the club's definitely learnt from it, and they want to move forward and rectify the problem and create something totally different.
No, and it's like you mentioned before, it's something that they've got there that they know you've got to move through as time goes on. And obviously, you got Richard Chamberlain involved with the club, and there might be some. Is there any future changes that the club's looking to do as well?
Yeah, that's potentially on the works. We're just waiting for a few things to happen, but potentially we could be doing a master plan at the golf club and changing potentially the whole course and.
Wow.
The whole. So we'll just wait and see if that eventuates. I'm hoping it does, because that'll be really exciting.
Bloody oath. Very exciting.
Yeah, like I think, the course was, it's still a good course. Now it's just, I think sometimes, it's built in the 1960s. Some things haven't evolved, parts of golf have evolved and the course hasn't, in the way of like bunker placement. A lot of the bunkers now, especially fairway bunkers, are sort of, for your low handicappers, they're blasting straight over them and not really concerned about fairway bunkers, where your really high handicappers are unfortunately hitting their ball straight into fairway bunkers because it's just pretty much right at their distance. So.
Yeah, and I suppose the courses have got to keep up with the game in a sense, and it's not always. I say golf clubs always. It's keeping up with the Joneses. You've got to golf courses and golf clubs need to understand that you do have to keep up with the Joneses, but it's how you go about doing it. and it's
Yeah.
the people that the club's engaged to look into the future of where they want to go, and you've got to get the right people involved. And Richard Chamberlain's a well-experienced golf course architect and done a lot of work around Australia, and he's got a lot of golf course work under his belt in Australia, and worked with some wonderful people at some wonderful courses. I had the chance to meet Richard up at the Gold Coast there earlier this year. Great bloke, and look at whether that's the way that the club goes or not. Is as long as clubs understand that they have to get the right people involved when they're looking to the path forward, and yeah, it's whether we like it or not, these things happen over time, and you kind of have to. Otherwise, you get left long behind, and it becomes almost an insurmountable process to sort of reinvent yourself, or at least keep up with the Joneses in a way. And like I said, Royal Hobart's got a wonderful name, and I'm sure it will continue to strive to be the best and one of the premier courses in Tassie, no doubt. I'd certainly love to see it continue on and move up the ranks and improve however it can. And obviously with you at the helm, Shaun, leading the team there is one step in the golf club doing that as well with a new superintendent, improving the course over time in the ways that you can, in its maintenance and its presentation of what is there already. So, mate, they've obviously invested in you in a sense just the same. So you're part of their future, which is a good thing. I don't know if you've looked at it like that, but yes.
Yeah, well, absolutely. I think that was one of the big sort of draw cards for me coming down. I wasn't too interested in just coming down for a year or two. I wanted to be here for a number of years, and if the master plan goes ahead, which as I said, I hope it does. Like, that was something that I'm really interested in, and I want to help the club move forward over the next 10 years and get to where they really want to be and where they should be. It's just exciting for me and exciting for the club, I think.
Absolutely, mate. And we will mention, I know you're on the western side, I think it is, of Hobart Airport, and you've got the little 9-hole of Lanherne not far from you. But on the other side of the airport, of course, is the wonderful new creation. It's currently being undertaken at 7 Mile Beach. So someone else has realised that, and that is Matt Goggin, who knew a long time ago that the site along that peninsula there, along that region near the airport, is a beautiful location for golf. So is yours a sandy site as well? Is that the base of the golf course?
Yeah. So sandy site, but the sands sort of change halfway through the golf course.
Okay, that's interesting.
So on one half of the golf course, it's a very fine yellowy sand, and then on the back end of the course is more grainy white sand. So
wow, okay.
So it sort of just flows and transitions through the golf course. So you'll be digging certain areas, and you'll find this yellow sand, and then you go to the backside of the course, and you'll find this white sand. So
wow.
Sitting on sand, I just think over the years we sort of probably haven't done as much renovation and that on certain areas as has needed to be done. And the course does hold water at times on fairways and stuff like that, but I think that's something that we're definitely trying to rectify and improve moving forward. But definitely on a sandy site, not as sandy as 7 Mile Beach. It's going to be an impressive golf course, and I was lucky enough to go over there and just have a quick walk around, and that'll be something special.
Well, it's like I said, Matt Goggin knew that region has got good bones and to build a golf course on, and obviously Royal Hobart knew that back in the 60s, like you said, when they moved to that recent site where you are now, and have got a wonderful golf course layout there, and 7 Mile, it would be a great location. If you get an invite to get as a guest onto Royal Hobart, we can go over and play 7 Mile when it's done. What a great little spot right near the airport. You fly in, play a couple of courses over a couple of days, and then get out, and what a way to do it.
yeah, it'll be really exciting for Hobart, to have that course up and running, and I think it'll probably get a lot more people coming down to Hobart playing golf, and we're sitting here, the Tassie Golf Club's sitting here, and Kingston Beach, there's some great courses around this area, so I think it'll be great for golf down here.
Wonderful stuff. Shaun, I will finish up there on a high, talking about the heights of what will be a wonderful golfing destination as it continues to grow down there in Hobart. Mate, it's been a wonderful insight to your greenkeeping career. I love learning about this on the way as we chat in the conversation. I had no idea some of the places you've been, some of the experienced greenkeepers and superintendents that you've worked under as mentors in a sense, mate. You've travelled across the East Coast and worked in some wonderful places, and you've got an interest, well, I won't say interesting, you've got a fantastic opportunity at Royal Hobart to be part of the page turn, as it were, down there for the golf course to improve, and something that I'll certainly be following with great interest to see how, if I ever get the chance. I've been trying to get down to Hobart, I will be honest. I want to get down there. So when I do, mate, I'll come knocking because I want to see what Royal Hobart is. But, mate, given half a chance, I would love to come down and have a look around. But, mate, it's great to hear your story. Fantastic insight, and I really appreciate you being open up about it and letting us in to hear about and see in a verbal sense, in an audio sense, a little bit about Royal Hobart as well. So, mate, thank you very much for your time on Keeper of the Greens. It's been a wonderful insight to having you on. No
worries. Thank you, Steve. Thanks for the opportunity, and yeah, absolutely. Come down this way. Definitely drop in and say hello.
Wonderful. Thanks, Shaun. Well, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much to Superintendent Shaun Bowden from Royal Hobart Golf Club down there in Tassie. Fantastic insight. What a great story. Hasn't he been and worked at some fantastic golf courses and also worked under some wonderful mentors in the greenkeeping industry? And I can say that because those names are very the likes of Dan Cook and Richard Kirkby from Pennant Hills. Dan Cook was previously at Eleanor and now at the Australian. So fantastic mentors, fantastic people to work under, and a great story. So well done to Shaun on taking that role and getting that position there at Royal Hobart Golf Club. It's great to see, and one that, like everyone else that I've spoken to, I'll certainly be looking forward to see how Royal Hobart are able to move and improve as time goes on, certainly under the leadership of Shaun Bowden there at Royal Hobart. So thank you very much to Shaun. Appreciate the insight and a great story as well on his greenkeeping career. Now, guys, a quick and final word from Colin Campbell Chemicals, the sponsor of Keeper of the Green segment. Don't forget to check out their website at campbellchemicals.com.au and go and see what they're all about. See how they can help you protect your turf surfaces, and they can assist you with any solutions that you might need. And don't forget, if you're listening to this and you've got a chance to catch up with them briefly towards the back end of the conference there, don't forget to go and check them out and catch up with Nadeem and Colin Campbell Chemicals at the trade show at the conference down there in Melbourne. Thank you very much, guys, for listening. As always, please pass it around. Please like, share, subscribe, and I look forward to any conversations you've got on social media. Really do appreciate it and really enjoy it. So don't forget to take out the time to get in touch with me, and don't forget, I would like a review, please. I know I've mentioned it a few times. Reviews are great. They help get the podcast around further. More people get to find it, discover it, and listen to it and get on board. And we love to expose and talk about, I certainly do, love to expose and talk about all things Australian golf courses, greenkeeping, and architecture. So thank you very much to everyone for listening, taking the time out. As always, you hit them clean, we'll keep them green, and I'll catch up with you very soon.